Hey, my friends, Derek here from Bomb Socks with another day of Bomb Bites, where we feast upon the words of Christ, one bite at a time. I want you to think for a moment about future things that you have going on in your life, which is kind of interesting to do because you're like, okay, I don't know what future things I have in mind. But now I understand that I've got several different age groups watching or listening to this message. So you've got as many as young, primary kids, maybe with their families, and you've got much older, younger people watching these or listening to these episodes. And so I just want you to think about some future things that you would like to be prepared for. Maybe, I work with seminary students on a daily basis, seminary and institute kids. So you've got classes and tests that you're taking, extracurricular events that you have going on, sports, musicals, whatever. You got college, you got mission, you got marriage, you got family life, you have a career, you have gospel things, church callings, temple service, etc. And really, it doesn't matter what age you are. There are things coming up in your life. Maybe there are some family things that are coming up. So I just want you to think about some things that you would like to be prepared for. Now, there's a kind of an obscure quote that I came across years ago. It was back in 1994, actually. His name was W. Don Ladd. He's a general authority, member of the 70, and he gave a talk called Make Thee an Ark. And so I thought that's an interesting talk to go over as we're going through this week of Noah and the ark. So Elder Ladd said this: we all need to build a personal ark to fortify ourselves against the rising tide of evil, to protect ourselves and our families against the floodwaters of iniquity around us, and we shouldn't wait until it starts raining. That's, if you can imagine yourself trying to build an ark in the middle of a flood, that's difficult. But we prepare in advance. Unfortunately, we don't always heed the clear warnings of our prophets. We coast complacently along until calamity strikes, and then we panic. I always picture Noah, building an ark, and he's like, guys, there's going to be a flood, and everybody's looking around at him going, yeah, you're crazy. You're a psycho. That's not happening. And so he's sitting there building an ark, and the people think he's nuts. Noah knew some things that we don't. Well, I can imagine the way Noah felt when the Lord said, I want you to build an ark. There's an old comedy routine, I think it was from Bill Cosby years ago, where it said, Noah, build an ark. And he's like, right, what's an ark? Because I don't know how many arks Noah had built up to this point. We don't have any background on that. But you and I, how do we build a personal ark? Well, there's some unique principles here. You go to Genesis chapter 6, verse 14. Now, Genesis chapter 6, verse 14 says, make thee an ark of gopher wood, and rooms shalt thou make in the ark, and thou shalt pitch it within and without with pitch. So that phrase, pitch it within and without with pitch, which means you've got to have, it's kind of a sealant of some kind. You've got to seal it in from the inside, and you seal it from the outside, making sure that nothing from the outside gets in, and what you've got on the inside stays in. And there's definitely a gospel principle with that, in the sense that if you're building your personal ark, you don't want anything out there from the world to get in. You want to fortify, you want to build, you want to seal that so nothing gets into that. And the world comes along and says, hey, you're stupid for building an ark. You're just like, that's great. I am doing this because I want to be prepared, right? Now, verse 16, a window shalt thou make to the ark, and in a cubit shalt thou finish it above, and the door of the ark shall set in the side thereof, with lower and second and third stories shalt thou make it. This is a big ark, as you're picturing second and third stories of this. So that phrase, the window, now the footnote says the Hebrew, sohar, I don't speak Hebrew very well, but it says some rabbis believed it was a precious stone that shone in the ark, which is interesting because it also gives you the footnote of Ether 2, chapter 23. Now, as you're listening to this, you're probably like, wait, he's building these big floating vessels, pitched in and without with pitch, sealed, tight like unto a dish, if I may use that phrase, with a window or a stone that you can be able to see. You're like, wait a second, I've heard this story before. And it's interesting, when you get into the story of Brother Jared, which we're going to talk about that later this week, there are so many similarities between an ark and the Jaredite barges. So have something that is going to bring you light as you are building an ark. So make sure it is sealed and protected, and make sure you have something that's bringing you light. Verse 22, and thus did Noah according to all that God commanded him, so did he. He did this in the way that the Lord commanded him to do this. I love back in First Nephi, where Nephi was told to build a ship, and he's just like, great, I've never done that before. But he says, where do you want me to go to make tools so that I can start building this ship? And he did it exactly the way the Lord did it. Not the way man would do it, but he did it the way the Lord did it. Wouldn't it be interesting, and I don't know this, wouldn't it be interesting if Nephi built a similar vessel as Noah and the brother of Jared? I don't know, maybe this is the right way to build stuff. But the Lord is trying to tell you, look, first of all, seal it correctly, make sure you have light, and then do it the way I'd like you to be able to do this. And you're going to be successful at building this ark and preparing yourself properly. Well, back to this talk from Elder Ladd. A great statement here. When it starts raining, it is too late to begin building the ark. However, we do need to listen to the Lord's spokesman. We need to calmly continue to move forward and to prepare for what will surely come. We need not panic or fear, for if we are prepared spiritually and temporally, we and our families will survive any flood. Our arks will float on a sea of faith if our works have been steadily and surely preparing for the future. Now, if you're anything like me, you build something and you're just like, boy, I bet this is messy. If God's looking at this, I bet he's like, boy, that's not quite the way I had it in mind, but good job, kind of like, when your little kid builds you something, for your, they're 3 years old and they build you something for your birthday and they give you this thing. You're like, oh, thank you. It's not the prettiest thing in the world, but what do? You smile, and it's awesome. So you go back to Moses chapter 7. There's such a cool little phrase here. I guess, how did the Lord feel about Noah's efforts to build the ark? So Moses chapter 7, verses 41 through 43. Now this is Enoch seeing Noah. And it says, it came to pass that the Lord spake unto Enoch and told Enoch all the things of the children of men. Wherefore Enoch knew, and he looked upon their wickedness and their misery and wept. And this is an interesting phrase. And stretched forth his arms, and his heart swelled wide as eternity. I love that phrase. His bowels yearned, and all eternity shook. And Enoch also saw Noah and his family, that the posterity of all the sons of Noah should be saved with temporal salvation. Verse 43, here's how the Lord feels about our ark building efforts. Wherefore Enoch saw that Noah had built an ark, and that the Lord smiled upon it and held it in his own hands. But the residue upon the wicked, the floods came and swallowed them up. But I love that idea. It's like Noah built the ark, and the Lord's like, awesome. And he smiles at it, holds it in his hand, just like when a little kid comes to you and gives you a gift that you're just like, okay, this is awesome. You smile and you look at it, and it's not in a pity type of way, but you do it in a way that's, I am grateful for your efforts, and I love that. And so I think the Lord does that as we're trying to prepare as feebly as we do it. The Lord looks upon our efforts, and what does he do? He smiles, and then he holds it in his hand, and he protects us. So I love that message as we are trying to endeavor to build our own arks in our own way. We've never built arks before, but we're doing our best. And so I hope that message helps you out today. Thanks for watching, thanks for subscribing, and thanks for sharing these messages. We love that as always. Go check out our amazing gospel theme socks at bombsocks.com. You guys have a great day. Godspeed. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.